Lillian was the type of girl who loved her own company a little too much. While her friends hopped from one weekend party to another, squeezing themselves into dresses so short they could pass for handkerchiefs, Lillian would curl up on her couch with a glass of chilled Zobo and her favorite blanket. She always had the same line whenever they tried to drag her out. "True love will find me right here, in my comfort zone," she'd say with her usual calm smile. Her friends would roll their eyes until one of them finally blurted, "My dear, unless your husband is hiding under that couch, you'll end up single forever. Men are outside, not in your living room." The whole group would burst into laughter, and Lillian would only shake her head. But deep down, those words sometimes stung. What if they were right? What if love really needed you to go out and chase it? That night, as she lay lazily on her bed scrolling through her phone, an advert popped up, "Find love at your fingertips, download now." Almost as though fate was taunting her, she downloaded the dating app without thinking too much. Her thumb hovered nervously as she set up her profile, a simple selfie, her name, and the one line that captured her truth. "Looking for a love that feels like home." Minutes later, the screen lit up with her very first match. She froze. He was tall, dark-skinned with a rich brown tone that glowed even through the pixels. His low-cut hair had waves that seemed carved by the hands of the gods, and his jawline was sharp enough to cut glass. His name was Couldnt. Lillian's heart skipped. This was the kind of Yoruba demon her friends always warned her about. Too fine, too smooth, too dangerous. Yet she couldn't stop staring at his pictures. Every detail about him screamed perfection. With trembling fingers, she typed a soft "hey" and hit send. Then she dropped her phone on her chest, her heart thudding like a drumline. Sleep caught her slowly, but not before her imagination carried her away. In her dream, Couldnt wasn't just smiling at her from a screen. He was touching her, whispering to her, making her body ache in ways she hadn't felt in months. The wetness between her thighs startled her awake. Gasping, she grabbed her phone, half hoping, half praying. And there it was. A notification flashing at the top of the screen. Couldnt, "Hey beautiful." Her scream pierced the silence of the night. He replied. He replied. Lillian could barely sleep after seeing Couldnt's message. She must have read those two words, "Hey beautiful," at least 100 times, grinning so wide her cheeks began to hurt. For the first time in years, a man she hadn't even met in person had managed to make her heart race like she was 16 again. By morning, she was glowing. Her colleagues at work noticed instantly. The usually reserved Lillian was humming under her breath, touching her hair more often than usual, and sneaking peeks at her phone every other minute. Her closest friend at the office, Sandra, raised a brow. "Who is making you smile like a fool, Lillian? You've been acting like a girl who just got proposed to." Lillian brushed it off with a coy smile, tucking her phone under a pile of documents. "Nobody, Jor. Just good vibes." But as soon as Sandra turned away, her phone vibrated. Couldnt again. "Couldnt, good morning, angel. Did you sleep well?" "Lillian, barely. I kept thinking of our chat." She pressed send and instantly regretted how desperate it sounded. But instead of laughing at her, his reply came like music. "Couldnt, same here. You already own space in my head, Lillian." Her hand flew to her chest. She wasn't ready for this softness. The more they chatted, the more addicted she became. Every ping from her phone sent butterflies swirling in her belly. She tried to hide her excitement, but even her boss noticed her sudden cheerfulness during the weekly meeting. At one point, she caught herself giggling at her phone under the table, and her boss cleared his throat so sharply she nearly jumped out of her seat. Meanwhile, miles away in Abuja, Couldnt's own assistant was noticing the same thing. The man who used to walk around the office with a permanent frown was suddenly smiling at his phone like a schoolboy in love. "Sir, is everything all right?" the PA asked cautiously. Couldnt looked up, grinning from ear to ear. "Perfect. Everything is perfect." Neither of them knew it yet, but what had started as a simple chat was about to spiral into something far hotter than they could have imagined. Days turned into weeks, and Lillian's phone became her lifeline. Every break at work, every lonely evening at home, every stolen moment under her blanket, Couldnt was there, flooding her world with messages that made her laugh, blush, and ache all at once. At first, their chats were innocent. "How was your day? Have you eaten?" But slowly, a fire began to creep into their words. One night, as she sat cross-legged on her bed in a silk nightgown, he texted, "Tund, if I were there with you right now, what would you want me to do?" Her fingers hovered over the keyboard, heart racing. She had never been the type to talk dirty. But something about him loosened her inhibitions. She typed back quickly, her cheeks flaming even though nobody else could see. "Lillian, kiss my neck, and bite it softly." The reply came almost instantly. "Tund, only if you moan my name while I do it." Her body trembled. From that night, their chats slipped into a world of raw fantasy. Lillian began sending him teasing selfies, her nightgown slipping off one shoulder, her cleavage daring him to imagine more. In return, he sent her pictures of his sculpted chest, his toned arms, and sometimes even more. One evening, unable to hold back, she sent him a bra shot, her breasts pushed together until they nearly spilled out. "Lillian, do these look like they ache for you, Daddy?" She bit her lip, terrified he might think she'd gone too far. But instead, he responded with a photo that made her gasp, his manhood straining hard against his shorts. "Tund, this is what you do to me." From that night, they were obsessed. Even in public, the pull was too much. One Friday evening, Tund was out drinking with his friends at a lounge. His phone buzzed, "Lillian again." He opened the message and nearly choked on his drink. "Lillian, hi Daddy, my nipples ache for your kiss." His friends were laughing loudly around him, but he couldn't hear a thing. Heat surged through him. Without thinking, he excused himself and dashed into the restroom, locking the door. His hands shook as he typed back, "Tund, don't tempt me, Lillian. You'll make me lose control in this toilet." Her reply came with a devil emoji and another picture. This time, her fingers tugging at her bra strap. Tund groaned, pressing his forehead against the wall. She was consuming him. This wasn't just flirting anymore. It was obsession. And both of them were tumbling in too deep. By now, Lillian's life revolved around her phone. Every vibration, every late-night ping from Tund sent adrenaline rushing through her veins. She had lost count of how many times they had role-played online, but the fantasies weren't enough anymore. She wanted him, his voice, his touch, his warmth, right in front of her. One evening, their chat took a new turn. "Tund, I want to see you. Not in my dreams, not on my phone. In my arms." Her heart skipped. "Lillian, say when, Poppy." "Tund, take some time off. Come to Abuja. I'll spoil you until you forget your name." She almost dropped her phone. This was it. The moment she had been waiting for. She agreed before fear could stop her. The following week was a blur of preparation. Lillian became a woman on a mission. She hit the boutiques, hunting for sexy lingerie, the kind of pieces that left little to the imagination. A red lace bodysuit. A silky nurse costume. A daring black thong that made even her blush. She giggled as she stuffed them into her shopping bag, imagining his reaction. Her friends could hardly believe it. "So this is what love at home has turned into?" Sandra teased, watching Lillian twirl in front of the mirror with a short, clingy dress. "A beg, leave me jaw," Lillian said, blowing a kiss to her reflection. "My man deserves premium." To seal the deal, they dragged her to a spa. The waxing session had her screaming at first, but when she looked down, smooth, clean, shaven, she smiled. Perfect. Just for him. The day of her flight arrived. Her heart pounded as the plane touched down in Abuja. She fixed her hair, reapplied her lip gloss, and clutched her handbag like it was her lifeline. The butterflies in her stomach were uncontrollable. And then she saw him. Tund stood at the arrival's gate, tall and impossibly handsome, his waves glistening under the airport lights. The moment their eyes locked, she forgot her luggage, her worries, everything. She ran into his arms, hugging him tight, inhaling his cologne that smelled like sin and comfort at once. This was no longer a fantasy. He was real. And soon, so would everything they had been imagining. The drive from the airport felt like a dream. Lillian kept sneaking side glances at Tund, unable to believe this was the same man whose pictures had haunted her phone screen for weeks. He was even finer in person, his skin glowing, his jawline sharp, his deep voice making her thighs tingle every time he said her name. When they got to his apartment, she was impressed. It wasn't a flashy mansion dripping with gold, but it was neat, modern, and cozy. The kind of space that screamed comfort. The kind of place you could easily call home. "Make yourself comfortable," he said, dropping her bags and heading to the kitchen. "Let me fix us something to eat." But Lillian had other ideas. She freshened up quickly, slipped into a short robe, and padded barefoot into the kitchen. Leaning against the counter, she bit her lip playfully. "I would like to eat something else before the food, Poppy." Tun turned, his smile slow and dangerous. "I'm all yours." Before he could say more, she was on her knees, untying his belt. His hand gripped the counter as her lips wrapped around him, and the groan that escaped his throat was so raw it sent shivers down her spine. By the time he released into her mouth, his knees nearly buckled. She rose gracefully, wiped her lips with a smirk, and went to sit at the dining table as though nothing had happened. Dinner was laughter, teasing, and stolen touches under the table. Her bare feet slid higher and higher along his thighs until he dropped his fork, his eyes blazing with hunger. When she excused herself, she rushed upstairs, heart pounding. From her suitcase, she pulled out a silky white lingerie set, styled like a nurse's uniform, and slipped it on. She practiced in the mirror, adjusting the straps, rehearsing her sultry voice. By the time he walked into the room, she was waiting by the bed, one hand on her hip. "Doctor," she whispered, tilting her head, "my heart aches for you." Tun's breath hitched. He crossed the room in seconds, his lips brushing her feet, her thighs, her belly, trailing fire up her skin until he reached her neck. She trembled, waiting for his mouth to finally claim hers. But then, her body stiffened. The moment his lips hovered near hers, a sharp foul scent hit her nose. Her chest tightened. She gasped quietly and turned her head at the last second, guiding his mouth to her shoulder instead. He didn't notice. His hands roamed, hungry. But when he leaned in again, she couldn't hold back. The smell was overwhelming, suffocating. "Are you okay?" he asked, pausing, his eyes suddenly concerned. Lillian forced a smile, clutching her stomach. "Ah, just a sudden ache. Must be the flight stress." Tund, ever the gentleman, scooped her into his arms and laid her gently on the bed. He tucked her in, brushed her forehead with his hand, and whispered, "Rest, my queen." She turned her face away, pretending to wince in pain. Only when he fell asleep beside her did she open her eyes, staring at the ceiling, her mind spinning. How could it be? The man of her dreams. With breath so bad it snatched the air from her lungs. Morning sunlight poured into the room, warm against Lillian's skin. She rolled over and found Tund already dressed for work, buttoning his crisp white shirt. He looked like a scene out of a magazine. Sharp jawline, well-fitted trousers, waves glistening. He bent to kiss her good morning, and instinctively she turned her head, pretending to yawn. "Still tired?" he asked gently. Haram," she murmured, clutching the sheets like a shield. He gave her one of his soft smiles. "Rest, my queen. I'll be back early. Make yourself at home." When the door shut, Lillian buried her face in her pillow and groaned. He was everything: caring, attentive, loyal, handsome. But how could she deal with that? His mouth odor was like a curse. It wasn't just unpleasant, it was unbearable. Meanwhile, at his office, Tun's joy was impossible to hide. He moved around with a grin so wide his staff exchanged curious glances. His PA, a stylish young woman named Anita, raised a brow when she saw the change. For weeks, her boss had been distant, cold, work-obsessed. But now? He was humming, smiling at his phone, even adjusting his tie with a new spring in his step. "Boss, did something good happen?" Anita asked slyly. Tund chuckled. "My girlfriend came to visit me. She's amazing." The word girlfriend hit Anita like a dart. She had secretly admired him for months, even tried subtle hints, a perfume spray near his desk, an accidental brush of her hand on his arm. He never noticed. But hearing the word girlfriend made her lips tighten. "Girlfriend, she said, forcing a smile. "Wow. She must be special. When Couldnt walked off, Anita leaned against her colleague's desk, whispering, "Our ogre has a girlfriend now. But tell me, which woman can cope with that man's mouth? Handsome, rich, cool, but that breath? God forbid." They both stifled laughter. "Whoever she is, she must have strong lungs," the colleague added. Back at the apartment, Lillian paced the living room. She had dodged kisses twice already. How long could she keep pretending? Her body craved him, her heart adored him, but every time he leaned in, she panicked. Her phone buzzed. "Couldnt, thinking of you. Tonight, I'm all yours." She swallowed hard. Tonight would demand answers. She couldn't keep lying forever. And if she didn't tell him the truth soon, someone else might. That evening, Lillian tried everything to delay the moment. She cooked his favorite meal, set the table with candles, even poured him a generous glass of wine to keep him distracted. But Couldnt's eyes never left her. The way he looked at her, hungry, tender, completely devoted, made her chest ache with guilt. After dinner, he pulled her close, his palm firm on the small of her back. "I've waited too long for this," he whispered, his lips inching closer. Her heart pounded. The scent hit her nose before his lips even brushed hers. That sharp, sour wave that made her chest seize. Her body froze. "Lillian." His voice softened. "Why do you keep turning away from me?" Tears burned her eyes. She couldn't hide anymore. With trembling hands, she pushed him back slightly. "Couldnt, you're everything I want. You're kind, loyal, beautiful. God, I've prayed for a man like you." "But..." He stiffened. "But what?" Her voice cracked. "Your breath. Every time you come close, I feel like I'll choke. I've tried to ignore it, but I can't." Silence slammed into the room. Couldnt stepped back as though she had slapped him. His jaw tightened, his chest rose and fell quickly. Shame darkened his eyes. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. Finally, he sat heavily on the couch, his shoulders slumping. "Do you think I don't know?" His voice was raw. "For years I've battled this. Doctors, dentists, mouthwashes. Nothing works. It's a gum infection I can't seem to shake. I mask it when I can, but I didn't want to hide with you. I wanted to be real." Lillian's tears spilled freely. His vulnerability cut her deeper than any flaw ever could. She sank beside him, taking his hand. "I didn't tell you to hurt you," she whispered. "I told you because I love you too much to keep lying. And if this is your battle, then it's ours now. We'll fight it together." Couldnt's eyes glistened. For the first time, the charming Yoruba demon looked fragile, human. He cupped her cheek with a trembling hand, careful not to lean too close. "You would stay? Even with this?" Her reply was steady, filled with conviction. "Yes. Love isn't about perfection, Couldnt. It's about choosing someone, flaws and all." In that moment, the air between them shifted. What had begun as lust and fantasy was now being tested in the fire of truth. And neither of them knew if they would come out stronger or broken. The next morning, Lillian woke up determined. She refused to let shame bury the man she loved. While Couldnt sat at the edge of the bed, silent and withdrawn, she wrapped her arms around him from behind. "Listen," she whispered against his shoulder. "We're going to fix this. I've already searched for the best specialist dentist in Abuja. You have me now, Couldnt. You're not fighting this alone anymore." For the first time since her confession, his lips twitched into a fragile smile. He looked at her like she was a miracle. "You're too good for me, Lillian." Weeks passed in a whirlwind of appointments, treatments, and prayers. Lillian never missed a session. She sat in the waiting room, scrolling through her phone, refusing to let him feel alone in his struggle. Every time he walked out, she greeted him with the same smile that had hooked him from the very first hey. Then, one crisp evening, the doctor finally gave the verdict: the infection had cleared. With proper care, the odor was gone for good. Couldnt could hardly believe it. That night, he pulled Lillian into his arms, no hesitation, no fear. Their lips met in a kiss so deep and desperate it left them both breathless. Tears pricked her eyes as she clung to him, finally tasting the man she had been craving for weeks. This, she whispered against his mouth, was worth the wait. When she returned to Lagos, her friends attacked her with questions. They wanted juicy gossip, dramatic tales, reasons to laugh. But Lillian only smiled knowingly, her phone lighting up with another sweet message from Couldnt. True love at home, ABI. Sandra teased. So how is it? Lillian raised her chin, her voice calm but certain. True love isn't about finding perfection. It's about finding someone worth enduring imperfection for. Later that night, she posted a picture of her and Couldnt, his lips pressed tenderly to her forehead. Her caption read, "Sometimes, love stinks at first, but it's worth it in the end." The comments exploded with laughter, teasing, and heart emojis, but Lillian didn't care. She had found her man. Against all odds, against flaws, against doubts, she had chosen love, and it had chosen her back. And for the first time in her life, she truly felt at home.